Glory 93.9 FM, where God is glorified and the people of God edified.
The thoughts, views, and comments expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production of Glory 93.9 FM.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street.
Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it is a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. I really do appreciate you listening in. So, a couple of weeks ago, I started a series of shows on taxation in the Bahamas. And I have to be honest, when I decided to start the series, I was a little worried that people would think that, oh, well, Michelle Gammett is boring topic. But boy, was I wrong. People are very, very interested in this topic, so much so that every time I do this series, a show on this series, it is one of the most watched shows on the page, on my official Facebook page. So we're back at it again today. This is part 3 of the Taxation series, and I'm calling this show today, Why Are We Climbing Trees While Ignoring Low-Hanging Fruit? Why are we climbing trees and the low-hanging fruit right there? And we refuse to pick that low-hanging fruit, but we threatening breaking our neck, falling out the street, going to the high parts of the tree when the low-hanging fruit right there. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about taxation as it relates to why there has been this reluctance to tax the rich. And I can't put it any other way but reluctance, because that's what it has been. And so joining me on the show once again, he's the guy that really started all of this, is Andrew Allen, attorney. Mr. Allen, welcome back to GPS. Go ahead and say something so we can make sure we can hear you. Okay, we're not hearing you.
Oh.
So I need you to work on the sound, because I see where your microphone is enabled. So I don't know what's going on your end, but I need you to work on that. Keep working on it. We still can't hear you. In the meantime, I'm going to introduce my second guest. Okay, we're starting to hear something from you, and I think you may be having some streaming issues.
Can you hear me now?
I'll introduce my second guest. See him, y'all. I just put the
Hello?
Well, we're going to break it down
Yeah.
during this show today. Let's try our next guest. Let's see if we can get him in here now, and hopefully his audio situation has been worked out. Mr. Allen.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
we can
you
hear
me
you
now? Okay.
back. Yes, we can hear
Thank you. Michelle,
All
you
right.
asked me
So,
you asked me to make a comment, I believe, on the name of the show,
hopefully-
which I think
okay.
again.
So,
Can you hear me?
why do you think I can hear you? Now the Facebook people are saying. So, let's see what's going on with that. Let's try to work that out. Okay. Okay. They say they're good now. Okay, great. So, gentlemen, welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift. Today we're talking taxation, and the theme of the show is why are we climbing trees while ignoring low-hanging fruit? Why do you think that's happening, Mr. Allen?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. Primary of which is a big misunderstanding about the nature of the Bahamian economy and what drives it. And I think a lot of politicians who are lawyers and other people who don't have an insight into what actually drives the Bahamian economy make the mistake of assuming that low taxation on wealth in general, on income, on real property, is what attracts investment to the Bahamas. And of course, it's unrelated. My father, who spent a number of years in intimate governance organs of the Bahamian economy, and Ministry of Finance and the central bank, always wondered himself why that confusion was made. And in one of his last letters to the editor, he talks about the faulty economic thinking that leads people to believe, for instance, low taxes on income. That only affects people within the domestic Bahamian economy. That's a domestic tax issue. It doesn't affect foreign investors. That's what many people don't understand. The beneficiaries of not having income tax in the Bahamas are not Sol Kerzner or the people that come here to build things that drive our economy. They wouldn't pay Bahamian income tax anyway, and they do pay tax, corporate income and personal income tax, back in their home jurisdictions anyway. Who benefits are wealthier Bahamians who don't pay their fair share of the burden of running the Bahamas. And the flip side of that is that the shortfall is made up by ever rising taxes on poorer Bahamians, consumption taxes.
Mm-hmm. I see now where the Progressive Liberal Party is now saying that if it is brought back into power, that they are going to be looking at restructuring our tax system to see how they can tax the rich more and the poor less. I mean, I just find this very interesting that now this is the time when they're coming forward with this pronouncement that they are now going to be taking this direction. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Well, people are talking about it generally. I'll just, Graham, I'll let you go. Right? People are talking about it generally a lot, right? And because of the situation we're facing in the last few cycles, not just right now. We had Dorian, we had a general recession since 2008. All of these things have caused government revenues to begin faltering. So people are now talking about it because government's now starting to do things that are adding pressure to the average person. VAT introduction, VAT increase, all these taxes and fees, and cutting spending in crucial, important areas, social spending. So people are starting to talk about taxation, and their minds are, for the first time in a long time, focusing on it. So it's no surprise that people like myself, Graham, and others are talking about these things, and the PLP and others are listening and listening, always listening out for politicians. Will always listen out for things that are, they think
hot topics,
are topical for their voters.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're going far enough. I don't think they're talking about VAT going down to 12 to 10% for 1 year. Well, what about the next year? VAT needs to be,
what about the next 4 years?
Yes, VAT needs to be removed. The only reason that we ever introduced VAT is because we've had a tax system which is regressive, thoroughly regressive, and spared wealthier residents. I say residents, companies. A company, again, I don't want to pick anybody out, but you have huge companies, Kalina, Commonwealth Bank, Arawak Homes. They pay nothing on the corporate tax. In the UK, They just took up, as a result of, look what they did in the UK as opposed to what they did here. As a result of the COVID crisis, the Conservative government in the UK, far from socialist, they just took up corporate tax from 19 to 25%. So a company like, like the Arak Homes or Commonwealth Brewery, Commonwealth Bank, making $100 million of profit in the Bahamas, they'd be paying $25 million if they were in the UK. And that adds up, We just have, for so long, operated on the basis that the wealthy, by giving breaks to the wealthy, that somehow trickles down into the economy. That does not happen. Money in the Bahamas trickles up. It doesn't trickle down. It trickles up and it trickles out. The money comes into the domestic economy through the spending of the poor. The money that comes into the economy generally in investments, that doesn't come into touch the domestic economy necessarily. It only touches the domestic economy when the wages of the workers then invest that money in consumption. So money trickles up in the Bahamas and not down. So you want to give tax breaks to the people at the bottom and in the middle if you want to cause economic growth.
My question is, if you have a big hotel or cruise ship come here and they get the incentives, whether it's business license and taxes, and I'm not going to get into the details of those heads of agreements. My question is, they're taxed in their country, but there's no tax here.
We pay the tax.
Of course, we're taxed. The few thousand Bahamians are paying all the money needed to run the entire country and to facilitate the foreign activity. And what do I mean by that? A big hotel comes and they need $500 million in generators for electricity. We pay that. Now, in a head of agreement, if you had somebody who could run more than a soup kitchen before you gave them a blue license plate, they would negotiate. If you need another 200 megawatt for your big hotel, we're going to give you an incentive here, but you're going to buy that generator and you're going to pay for the fuel, because we, the Bahamian citizens, don't need the generators we have now. They're too big, but they're not too big if you want to say we're now going to plug in the cruise ships to the local power. And who will pay for the local power that needs to be gargantuan?
Yeah.
It'd be the local. And so to go back to the 10% VAT lowered, I want to ask the question, how do we get rid of all taxation, all fee? You know what a fee is? That's to license your car. So if I take away a little bit of your VAT, am I going to put your car license up to $800? You see, how do you have no tax, no fee, no duty, nothing at all on the local?
Exactly.
Period. Rich or poor. I would say tax all the activities happening in our country. And I like extra titles. The much more most honorable Brent Theodore Simonet said in The Guardian, November 5th, 2018, that there are $3 trillion in this country in goods and services. No, we don't produce anything, but we trade $3 trillion. Can we not put 5% VAT on that, which would yield $60 billion a year? And how much money is $60 billion? On your best tourist year that you bragged about with 7 million tourists before Dorian, you did $12 million in the local economy.
All right.
You see, we have two economies going on here. And we're not talking about the wealthy one. Because if that were taxed, like you just said, we would have been making 5 times more money next year than we made on our best year with tourism. You can't tell me that a whole oil tanker, a whole container ship, a whole cruise ship moves through the Bahamas. You talk about planes flying overhead and we got to spend $300 million to do radar or whatever to tax them. You don't have to spend anything to tax these things moving on the water. And if you have $1 trillion worth of oil moving through the Bahamas, and I want someone to call me and tell me that figure's wrong and tell me the real figure, because we used to refine in Freeport, and that was an atrocity. And we know what we had at Equinor. So how can this much money be moving through the Bahamas untaxed? And I'm going to wrap up this. I want any politician to call and tell me, how can we tax all the global activity that happens in the Bahamas and not tax the local? And they're going to call me stupid. They're going to call me crazy, but I have ideas on how to do it. And some of them make sense. Now, if they don't have the idea on how to do it, they may be the wrong person for the job. And if they were in the private sector, they would be fired if they couldn't answer that. Remember The Apprentice? You put all our politicians in the boardroom, ask them that one question, and if they can't answer it, you should fire them.
Oh boy, Graham. Go ahead, Andrew.
You're very right. The whole thrust of a country like this, the whole thrust of its tax regime should be to exempt the local and put it on to the foreigner. That's the nature of the, I mean, I don't know if it was the early PLP or the UBP, but one of the earlier governments introduced, when real property tax was introduced altogether, Bahamians are exempted in the Family Islands. Since that, governments have been trying their best to erode that policy. And the latest is they're saying we're going to start enforcing, but we're only going to enforce in New Providence. Why? Because that's where the Bahamians live. So that's where the Bahamians pay real property tax, right? So that was an example of what you do. If you go any small, attractive tourist destination in the world, right? Whether it's Monte Carlo or West Palm Beach or Las Vegas, anywhere you go where there's a relatively small population, well, Las Vegas is different, they've got casinos, you have the locals living off of the fat of the wealth brought there by the second homeowner, the tourist. Here it's the reverse. It's the absolute reverse. The locals are paying for everything. And people are given incentives to come here as if they need incentives to come here. On the one hand, you had was it Holland America? One of the big cruise companies is boasting that Coco Key in the Berry Islands is their #1 destination on the planet. And you have Minister Diaghilev repeating it. This is the #1 destination on the planet. So why do they need an incentive? Why do they need a tax break? Why do you need a tax break to make money? You're here because you're making a lot of money. Why do you need a tax break to go and do what Disney's doing? I mean, when I say a tax break, Disney's got just a tax holiday, you know? It's not the guests taking the holiday, It's Disney. They've got a complete tax break, what they're doing on VAT, everything. If you're coming here, I mean, don't tell me people have to have their arms twisted to come here and build a resort in the Bahamas. If Disney, you want the cruise industry, even if they didn't want to come to the Bahamas, which they do, how are they going to get from the U.S. to all the competitors of the Bahamas
without going through our waters? Bahamas. Yes, exactly.
Now that point, I got to weigh in on what you just said. You have to know how powerful that is. What you just said. You have to negotiate like a boss, Michelle. Mm-hmm. We're not negotiating like a boss. If we start negotiating like a boss, understand that the Bahamas is the only destination that is 1 day at sea, 1 day at Coco Key, and 1 day back home. Mm-hmm. If you want to take a tropical cruise, not in the Caribbean. If you want to go to the Caribbean, you have to go through the Bahamas, which takes you 2 days at sea to get to Puerto Rico. Don't talk about Mexico and go all the way around Cuba to Jamaica and Cayman. 2 days at sea just to get to the Caribbean. So you're looking at 7, 10, 14, 21 day cruise. So here's the deal. You got the oceanfront property on the beach, but you're giving it away because you think it has no value. You see, if we were to play, okay, we won't come to the Bahamas. Great. You now have to go around the Bahamas. That means go around Freeport, all the way around Abaco, and go straight down. Now you're 3 to 4 days at sea before you start your Caribbean cruise. You're not coming through the Northwest
And
Channel.
trust me, they're not going to do that.
You know how much fuel that is?
Yeah.
And people don't want to be on a boat 4 days. They go stir crazy. So you have a trump card, and you're negotiating like you're the owner of a soup kitchen instead of a boss.
That's what it is. It's a lot of politicians have a beat down view of the Bahamas. Simple. They think and of course the people negotiating with us are going to encourage that. Oh, we know you need jobs. You're desperate.
Well, they're benefiting from it, so why shouldn't they? Yes, of course.
And politicians, they play this because they get out and they tell the whole world it's just all jobs, jobs, jobs. I know people need jobs, but there's more than just jobs. There's ownership. But when politicians go and they tell the world we need this, and they're seen presenting every heads of agreement to their voters as, it's election fodder. Every time an election rolls around, you start hearing about heads of agreement, that horrible expression, right? And it's presented as if something that politicians are relying upon, so it becomes transactional. I'll put in a little thing here, I'll say, let you go and say you're going to create 20 jobs. You give me a tax break for 100 years on this beautiful piece of real estate, and I'll make $200 million in the first year. So they're not negotiating well at all, and it's structural. It's become structural, part of Bahamian politics, where right now and every time any government of any persuasion starts heading towards elections, suddenly they start announcing all these things that they have hidden away in a box.
Yeah.
These heads of agreement. And I'd like you to think back over the last 30 years, how many of them actually came to nothing? How many of them or were a disappointment, or have any of them actually fulfilled what we were told, what we were sold? And it becomes a cycle.
You remember the best one? For 5 to 60 jobs, you'd give away a chunk of Freeport for an oil refinery.
Well, that was a land deal.
Yeah, we know, but I'm saying you were giving away everything that was encompassed in OBAN for 5 to 60 jobs, no ownership. I just met somebody a few days ago. They were working at a big hotel and they lost their job. Housekeeping, where they were told it's recommended you get on your knees to clean the bathroom with an old towel instead of a mop. That's pathetic. Anyway, this person bought a little Nissan Cube and they outfitted it because they were an expert in housekeeping. And right after the economy opened and we got Airbnb back, they started cleaning Airbnb homes, $100 in and out an hour and a half, because they know how to be speedily. That's 300. They do 3 a day. 300 a day is $2,000 a week in ownership of the housekeeping side of tourism, instead of just working for $300-400 a week cleaning someone else's tourist product.
Right.
The Abaco model and taxing. This is the most devastation. We had a financial disaster in Abaco with Dorian and Freeport, and I said there's a tsunami coming to Nassau, because 1/3 of all the tourist dollars that stayed in the country that were taxable were lost. You know how profound that is? And so we ignored it. And then a pandemic came after that, right? So even if we didn't have a pandemic, we were in serious trouble with 1/3 of all the tourist dollars that stay here. So at the big hotels, right, you get 10% on a dollar to housekeep, waiter and stuff, and that money stays here, not the big money that never even comes to our bank to be taxed. This is what he's saying. When you book your room at a big hotel, you end up on the phone with somebody in the United States or somewhere else. They take your credit card, the money goes to their bank. We so smart in the heads of agreement, we don't even say that you must receive the money here. We should have it in our bank to make interest on.
We have a banking industry, for heaven's sakes, which we can.
Yeah, so we don't know how to do that? He's correct. So you lost 1/3 of your taxable income, because we're talking about tax, right? So if you lose 1/3 of your tourism in Abaco, and how did Abaco, which is the Bimini model, by the way, my friend always reminds me, Mr. Jeff Davis. So how did Abaco make 1/3 of all the tourist dollars that come into the country, and they don't have any of these big boats? They don't have any of these big hotels. You know how? They own the knife, the fork, the spoon, the cup. They own all the liquor. They own all the tours, the taxi. They own the bed, the sheet, the pillow. They own the tourism industry.
Ownership is a big. That's the caveat. That's what changes this whole conversation. And we're gonna talk more about that on the other side of the break. But we have to take our first break. We're talking today with Graham Weatherford and Andrew Allen about why are we climbing trees while ignoring low-hanging, as we continue with our series on taxation. So stay with us. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Located on Carmichael Road, Divine Designs Hair Boutique is a haven for women and men looking for professional beauty services. Our state-of-the-art and contemporary equipment creates a relaxing ambiance for you to enjoy while we cater to you. Need a hairstylist? We cater to all types and textures of hair for care and styling. We even have a barber on duty. Need a nail tech? Our technicians provide a range of nail services, including the latest trends. Unwind in one of our massage chairs while you get your pedicure. With our reasonable rates, friendly staff, and over 20 years of experience, you will be in great hands. Call us at 823-1669 or 698-1025 to schedule your appointment. Wanna be pampered? Wanna be slayed? Let Divine Designs make your day.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466. At Lee Air, safety is our number one priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
We are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and today we're talking about why are we climbing trees while ignoring low-hanging fruit. This is part 3 of our series on taxation. Now, this conversation didn't just begin in recent times. I have a clip that I want to go to now. This is from 2014. A contribution made to a debate in the House of Assembly by one MP, Greg Moss. And back then, he was asking the very questions that we're asking today. Let's go to clip number 1.
What are we going to do about taxation in this House? Because there cannot be any way that we will justify discrimination against Bahamians in this day and age. Bring the debate these guys don't want, the debate on income tax, that the F&M doesn't want because it goes against their constituents. Bring it to this House, and let's now talk about equality and equity in the way we treat our people. And let's finally get to the point where we admit that what we are calling a national debt, which is the difference between what we earned and spent for 40 years of independence, is equivalent to the tax break we gave to the rich for 40 years of independence. Let's talk about it. And how do we go forward without equalizing that and making sure the people in this House, those of us who earn more than most of those out there, start paying our share so that they don't have to carry those heavy burdens? Let's talk about it.
That's what we're doing today. We're talking about it here on GPS, and my guest once again. And I dare say not much is, or if anything, has changed since he made that contribution to the House of Assembly. I see you shaking your head, Andrew.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
I agree with Graham that insofar as we can exempt all Bahamians from tax, that's a good thing. However, that's a huge ambition, and we should be working towards it. However, I also agree with Greg Moss. Those of us who can pay, I mean, as I said in a letter I recently wrote, there are only 15 countries in the world that don't have income tax. This is why when the Bahamas goes and begs for money, we get laughed at. I mean, you can afford not to tax your rich, and you're asking us, some international organization, for money. We can't afford not to tax our rich. The U.S. can't afford not to tax its rich. So why are they supposed to be sympathetic with us when we need,
I'd like to make a point of order on what you just said. That is profound, what you just said. Here you have a country that is considered third world, but has so much money made, it doesn't have to tax their rich.
Right.
Do you understand how wealthy that country must be?
It's a complete contradiction. The government takes one position when it deals with, when it needs to. It pretends as if, we're a struggling country. The struggling is all of our own choice, as Greg Moss pointed out. And the other side, we can afford not to we can afford not to tax our rich. Nobody can afford that, only us. So, I mean, if you look at countries that don't have any kind of income tax, and I'm very sympathetic to Bahamians not paying income tax generally, but certainly wealthy corporations should be paying income tax. I wouldn't mind paying an income tax. It's only fair. My gardeners should be paying, or my employees should be paying these exorbitant taxes on everything they buy. And I can pay a 10% income tax as opposed to what I'd be paying if I were in the States or Britain or somewhere else, which would be exorbitant. But, there are 15 countries in the world that don't have any kind of income tax on wealth, tax on wealth, income, high income, right? Meaning corporate and personal. Of those countries, okay, there's not 15 because 4 of them are colonies. There's only 11 countries. Apart from the colonies, all of which have a population of under 100,000 and have such outsized financial service sectors, which we never had, but we definitely don't have now, that the financial services covers all of their budget. Like in the case of Gibraltar, gaming, online gaming covers 75% of their budget. So 4 of these colonies, tiny populations. 2 are
they're taxing the foreigner and the foreign activity,
right? But see, they
instead of the local.
Yeah, but they can do that given the size of their economy and the size of their offshore sector, which they were sensible with. We
can do that. We can do that as well because we have an $3 trillion passing this country and doesn't pay 1% tax. Why not 5% on that?
We'd have to do some fundamental things. One of the opportunities we missed is, and I mentioned Gibraltar just in passing, their offshore gaming, meaning gaming, like we have here with the locals doing, brings in 75% of their budget. When these guys, when the online gaming industry started in the Bahamas, the Flowers and the Sebastian, these guys, instead of the government saying, look, these are young Bahamian guys who built a product that can compete anywhere in the world. So instead of me treating them as a domestic company and talking about how bad they got people addicted and how we can tax them, why don't we try to launch their product as an internationally traded product? Why shouldn't people in Bangkok and New York and Bombay and London be playing games from Flowers and Sebas in the street? There's nothing stopping them because you don't have to physically set up. It's electronic. You can do it. So if we thought like that as a country and our politicians and regulators thought like that, I agree with you. We could be trading services to such an extent internationally that we wouldn't have to tax anybody. But if you take away those countries, then the only other countries that don't have an income tax of any kind are oil producers, major Middle Eastern oil producers, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait. And then take away those, the only other 2 countries are the Bahamas and Somalia, right? Those are the only other 2 countries. The Bahamas has no business right now taxing the wealthy, the poor over the wealthy, and because it isn't in the groupings that it pretends to be in. We in our current structure, we need to tax the income of high income individuals and corporations. And the fact that we don't makes us perpetually, and we don't change the underlying structures that Graham's talking about to make the subject, moot, makes us perpetually taxing the poor.
Is this a matter of delusions of grandeur or just dishonesty?
I think it's the
And when I
opposite.
say, go ahead.
I think it's
Explain.
the opposite. I think it's a low national self-esteem.
Mm.
I think it's a sense of first of all, anybody can come in and tell us, oh, you can't tax us if we come there to do this, otherwise we won't come, and we believe. Politicians are always telling us we're lucky. We're so lucky just to have somebody look at us. That we have to give them tax breaks, and then you have people who believe that. I've heard our prime minister say that if the rich got up and walked away, something along these lines, our prime minister, that our GDP would go down from per capita. We're only a wealthy country on paper because if the rich left, then our GDP per capita would diminish. My father was watching it with me, and he the look of sadness in his face. The opposite is true. The opposite. The rich aren't included in our GDP. They're not. People that live in Laifaki, they don't count in our GDP. They're counted.
Explain that.
Our 12 billion?
They're not counted. Our GDP, 12 billion, is only Bahamians. That's gross domestic product. Our real GDP is much bigger than that. That $12 billion is the domestic. Like Joe Louis isn't in that. His income isn't in that. Atlantis' income isn't in that. The people that work at Atlantis' income isn't in that.
Neither any cruise ship.
No.
Neither any oil tanker, neither Equinor, neither anything in Freeport, neither any container ships.
They're not in our GDP.
No. And that's part of the $3 trillion that's not taxed.
Right. But when you say our GDP, which is high, yes, but the tax structure, but the cost structure on the locals is so high it doesn't matter. But when our prime minister is of the view that the reason we're twice as wealthy as Barbados and much more than Jamaica and all the rest is because you have all these foreigners living here. And it's the reverse is true. It's their GDP, their income is not calculated in our GDP. In fact, it's calculated in the United States. Now, there is a country that has a GDP that's artificially high, and that's the United States. Now, the United States' GDP has a lot of, United States' GDP per capita is supposed to now, it's like 50,000 or 60,000. But that's including Amazon, Microsoft, companies that do most of the business outside of the United States. They just record their incomes, their profit in the United States. In reality, the United States GDP per capita is not as high as the Bahamas is. In reality, small town America does not have as much economic activity. Only the New York, the LA. If you took off New York City and LA, go to Wikipedia. Just pick an average American city, Kalamazoo or Bakersfield, California, and look at its GDP. The Bahamas is about 35. Average American city is about 15, 17, 16, 17. North Carolina is about 18. Generally speaking, about half the Bahamas is wealth per capita. So the U.S.'s wealth per capita, when you look at it on paper, is drastically artificially large, and the Bahamas is, if anything, understated, right? But our prime minister uses that to justify saying we can't afford to give tax breaks because we won't have enough economic activity taking place in the country. And of course, those who benefit from these policies, the foreigners who are coming and negotiating with them, encourage that. They encourage them to feel that way. So it's a low self-esteem. They don't realize how wealthy the country is, genuinely, not just on paper, and more so than shows on paper, as Graham knows. Of course, it's not spread well, but more so if you did include the international business that's taking place here, it would be drastically higher if that were included and into our economy for tax purposes and for purposes of as Graham gave the example of Abaco. If we were more integrated into it, it would be drastically higher than this little $12 billion, this little $40,000 or $30,000 per capita income. It would be about $120,000 per capita income if we would.
It could actually be more. And I have one question. You want to come here to do what? You name it, whatever you want to come here to do. What's the tax rate in your country of origin?
Right.
That's my first question when we start negotiating. Well, it's 50% in New York. Really? It's 30% in Florida. But if you're a corporation, you can find loopholes and gray areas and only pay maybe 15, 14%. See, the poor end up paying the largest percentage of income tax, and the corporations still get away in the U.S. because they can afford to find the loopholes and have tax attorneys, etc. See, you have to negotiate like a boss, You have to believe that your country has value, like you said, and you have to know your value. I'm the center of the hemisphere. So as a distribution hub, if you're sending something through the Panama Canal and you want to send it to North America, South America, Europe, or Africa, 4 continents, you got to touch down in Freeport. It's a distribution hub. Why do you think it was what it is and it was done that way in 1955? You can get in a boat that is thousands of feet long, full of oil, right next to the port. And you can pump that oil, refine it, and put it on smaller boats that can get into the eastern seaboard. So if you don't have a free port, or it's owned by a communist country, that hurts fuel supplies to the eastern seaboard. What's that worth? What's it worth to have an oil refinery in Freeport, Oban, where you don't really have to adhere to regulations like you would in Texas, refine, pollute, and do whatever you wish, and then you send the product over there to the eastern seaboard? If you send, listen, I'm going to wrap up this. You send a WhatsApp from Argentina, from South America to New York, and you come straight up through the Bahamas to New York, it takes you half a second.
But I have heard people say that it's delusional for you to think that you'll be able to tax that, Graham.
So we can't tax data passing through our country. Well, here's the deal. We gave away the phone company, so you really can't. You don't own the fiber optic cables that run through the country.
That's true.
But it sits on my ocean bed.
My God.
And I'm taxing the land it sits on. And as much as $70 billion was projected in data passes through South America and the Caribbean, through the Bahamas to North America. So it takes me half a second in Argentina to pass through the Bahamas, a straight line to New York. And you have to go through South America, over Colombia, Central America, come up in Texas on a piece of fiber wire, and go all the way across the United States, another 900 miles. Takes you 3/4 of a second. I bought the Apple stock in Argentina. We were sitting side by side, and I sold it to you a 1/4 second later when you came in for a profit. And that's just on, and that's going.
The fiber optics, you're very right, Graham. We gave away the telco, and we had such an opportunity with the fiber optic business. The seafloor cable.
You still own the land that cable sits on, my brother. So either you're going to pay me 10% tax on that $70 billion, right? That's $7 billion a year. Your whole economy is only 12. You see how much money? I sat down with the Honorable Leslie Miller on another TV show, and we raised in 20 minutes $22 billion. We could get rid of our debt. I just asked, how do we get rid of all tax on locals? How do we pay off our debt? And any politician wants to weigh in, please call the show and just tell us how. Because if you can't, the private sector would have fired you 4 years ago.
I want to read a text. This one is coming in from C. Allen Johnson, and it says, you don't need to own any company to tax data passing through your sovereign borders. Government don't own anything they tax.
That's true.
So what you gentlemen are saying today is that our people are standing on lines waiting for $20 for food, living out of cars, don't know where the next meal coming from. Children can't get on the educational platform. I could go on for the next hour. And this doesn't have to be if we would simply take a serious look at our tax structure and start doing some of the things that you guys are recommending today. Are you trying to tell me that our people are suffering nothing?
Stuff that's been handed on a platter. The data, that's the worst example. I went to a conference in Brazil about 7-8 years ago with a group of Bahamian businessmen who were in that line of work, telecoms. And we were in the airport and we bumped into some Americans. We were speaking English, so they came up and introduced themselves. And it turns out they work with the U.S. Navy. And when we said we were from the Bahamas, like, oh, wow, we always go to the Bahamas. It's great. We used to go to that base, Alltech base in Andros. Yeah, we're the guys who cut into your local data network. The U.S. Navy, the Bahamas government, without even telling the Bahamian people, wasn't an issue. We have referenda about all these other things. No issue. The Bahamas government allowed the Navy to tie in to our when it was still Batelco, into our domestic network. We have a domestic nationwide subsea cable. And a few years later, it emerged that the Bahamas is one of 2 countries that the U.S. government's spy agencies record 100% of their telephone calls because of that. That's the mentality our leaders have when it comes to what Bahamians in the Bahamas is worth.
The problem with that admission, and I believe it was Minister Mitchell at the time and Snowden, is it wasn't that we were recording Bahamians. You were recording 80 to 90 countries that passed through the Bahamas. Somebody that came into the Bahamas on vacation in Bimini on the big red boat. The minute they left Miami and their phone said BTC, you were now spying on that foreigner. A German visiting the Bahamas, same thing. And so at that point, I contacted the American Civil Liberties Union up in New York, Jamal Jafar, he's still there. And he said, how many of you want to sue? Because the NSA was told by Obama to stop doing it. And we didn't do a thing.
The government elected not to. The government elected to let it happen. It was Ingram's government when it started. And nothing was done. So these guys were, that's how.
But anyway, that we don't want to get too deep in that. But what I'm saying is, think of this, guys: $7 billion. If that figure of 70 billion is accurate, and C. Allen could weigh in on this. If we look at 70 billion, you get 7 billion next year just by taxing data going through a wire on the ocean floor. What could 7 billion do for us? You would have had new roads, new sidewalks. You would have had better drones, better cameras watching the people.
A hospital that's not falling apart.
A tablet, an iPad in every child's hand. You'd have had 5G.
And 5G. You have right now in the Exuma Keys, you have situations where foreign investors are complaining. I have clients in the Exuma Keys with resorts, little resorts, who are complaining because the level of connectivity is horrible. It's way behind the British Virgin Islands. And since it's been privatized,
we have fiber throughout this country for more than 30 years ago, right? So we could have given people gigabit internet at their home, right? On fiber directly in their home. There's one internet company that suggests they can do this for you now, and I haven't. It works well. And they could give you gigabit internet. You could have had 5G on every one of these islands. You could have had a wireless world, no, wireless country. You could have been moving at the speed of light, and you could have invited Elon Musk to come and build his Tesla in Freeport, where we have a distribution shipping hub for the world. He could send that car out to everywhere in the world from there. And you could have told him, remember Mr. 10% in Freeport? You could have said, we Mr. 1%. You don't even need 5. A 1% VAT tax on the rich, the poor, the middle class, everybody, and on the foreigner. And then you can get rid of duty. You can get rid of car licensing. You can get rid of all the other tax and fees because you would have stupid money.
Well, right now we got stupid leaders.
Yes, we do.
And I ain't calling no name.
We have a bunch of them.
Right? They say when you throw a rock in the crowd, whoever yelled is the one who get hit.
Yeah.
Oh, none yelling, everybody quiet. That means they don't even want to touch that.
None call in, I noticed. But Graham, you challenged it, and none have called. But it's true. I mean, that is just one of many examples. That the overflight planes. That's another example. So we just have an attitude. Our leaders have an attitude towards the country as if it's a beggar country.
Mm.
You know what I told one of our I call them rulers because they're like dictate rulers.
Mm.
I told one of them, they said, Graham, we're in trouble. I said, who's in trouble? The people that can't think. I said, how many snapper do I have in the ocean? Only God knows. And I could start farming snapper to make more. So let's say I have 1 billion snapper in the sea. With the scales on and the guts in, I can get $2 a head anywhere in the world, especially in Polynesian countries where they never seen a fish bigger than a sardine. So that's $2 billion just in snapper.
All right, gentlemen. This is all very
unbelievable and unthinkable.
Let me read a couple of the comments from Facebook. Okay, so Adrian Mott says, Michelle, your show is exceptional today. Mr. Allen and Graham are putting out serious knowledge, but how will things change with our people who only think party politics? The rest of the world is getting over Wuhan flu. Lincoln Bain is trying, but it comes down to how to get the majority of voters to see the big picture. Adrian Mott, smoking his what is that? Gare? How you pronounce that?
I think it's Gare.
Gare? Is that some kind of cigar or something? Anyway, and drinking my black in Switzerland. Thank you, Adrian, for tuning in all the way from Switzerland. And Adrian has a very, very good point. A big part of our problem is our unwillingness to give up the tribalistic mentality. You know, we all are part of a tribe, the yellow tribe, the green tribe, the red tribe, now the independent tribe. We all part of a tribe. And so until we get to the point where we put these tribes down, they will continue to be able to get away with this because divide and conquer. So how do we get beyond that to even start to look at what we are discussing today? I mean, this is a serious, serious question. And I don't know if there's an answer. And maybe you guys could weigh in on this. I don't know.
Education, I think, and public, I don't mean formal education, public education, an educated public and a public that just gets to the point where it's had enough. You know, politicians are always going to be the ones who follow at the end of the day. They pretend as if they lead. They actually follow the thinking of an educated and a politically conscious electorate, because you know they're just at the end of the day looking for jobs out of it, and the organizations they belong to are sort of employment organizations, I guess, of these different parties. But until we have enough discussion and there's a critical mass of people who understand these issues, because there's still many who don't, then I think we're really going to keep going around in circles.
I think you took a whole year, and now you're talking about a summer holiday. You took a whole year of no school. Mm-hmm. Now think about this. This is profound. I watched the time. At the last quarter of 2010, I went on a TV show, and I told a local television show gentleman, give every child this new iPad, give them the wireless internet, and we'd have one central location for teaching from Nassau at a standard that would be national. Didn't do it. So we weren't prepared for Dorian, and we're not prepared for Corona. And I said you could get the iPad for free because you give it to every child. You do a commercial with Steve Jobs, and you say giving a whole country touch technology learning, preparing them for a conceptual economy. And you'd have to donate 10,000 pieces or thereabout. Jamaica would call tomorrow and order 300,000 pieces. And so it comes back to negotiating properly. And we're now talking about we're going to take a whole summer off so the kids could have a break. They didn't go to school for the whole year. We should be working the whole summer trying to get them smarter than other countries. Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't want that. We want to produce people that have to, when they come out of school, this makes me really cry, have to go back to hotel training college. Remember that? And one of the big hotels offered it for free. We'll teach you for free. What do you mean? I come out of school and I can't even read or write? So who's going to take I'm cheap labor, and someone's going to take my cheap labor from another country because they'll do it for what, $1 a day? And you see the different people moving in.
Mm. All right. I want to read one or two comments and then we got to take a break. This one is from Bertha. Bertha says, wow, what a time. Jesus, take the whole car. Child, but the wheel ain't be enough. The wheel ain't be enough. This is some serious stuff, man. Okay. Delphine says, our government believes that Bahamian people don't deserve the best. They believe that we are a bunch of dumb people who will vote for them no matter what. Just for the record, even the dogs know good treatment. And that is the truth. It's 12 o'clock. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation in our Taxation series. Our topic today, why in the world are we climbing trees and ignoring the low-hanging fruit? Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
Ocean blue is the best in seafood, hey, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too, yeah. We got fish, conch, lobster, shrimp, everything you want. Ocean blue got it. Ocean blue, friendly and clean, best service you ever seen. Ocean blue is the best in seafood, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too, hey. Ocean blue seafood, we are here for you. Ocean blue seafood, no one else will do. Ocean Blue Seafood, located on Burnett Road. Contact us at 393-2160.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information. Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and we are streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm page, as well as on YouTube on the official Michelle Malcolm channel. And of course, we are on TuneIn. And for those of you listening on the radio, thank you so much for joining us on Glory 93.9 FM. We're talking taxation today, and we are asking the question, why are we climbing trees when we are ignoring low-hanging fruit? So we would love to hear from you. Our telephone lines are 828-3543. 828-3543 is the number to call. And the text line is 828-2543. 828-2543 is the text line. And my guests today are Graham Weatherford. Let me correct that. Let's see how I can make this right now. I'm trying to learn this StreamYard thing, y'all. Okay, so Graham Weatherford and Andrew Allen are my guests today, and we are talking taxation. So I want to read a couple more comments, and then we will dive back into the conversation. And again, we would love to hear your voice. So definitely give us a call. But for right now, we're going to go back to the comments on Facebook. Regina says, this information is so disturbing. Bahamians can live better if the government would respect us. Why should the poor pay all taxes and rich don't? We must be given what belongs to us. The government really doesn't care about us. I guess the real question, gentlemen, is do we care about ourselves? Because we continue to elect these same parties over and over again, back and forth like a pendulum, back and forth, without placing any real demands on them for change. So is it a question of the government not caring about us, or are we not caring about ourselves? And what can we do to make the demands to see the kind of change that we're talking about so that we all can live a better life?
Well, the first thing is A+ citizens do not vote for de-average leaders.
Oh, my Lord.
So what does that mean? It means we should have focused, and there's never a better time to start, focus on education. I've never been taught my Constitution in school. I don't even know what rights I have. I don't even know that the Queen of England, all of the country is vested in her. And vested means to bestow honor, power, land. So when I go to the house and I swear to her, I'm not swearing to my people. So I haven't been taught, I haven't been educated to know what question to ask. But there are people here who have slipped through the cracks. And we're on the show today, and you have C. Alan Johnson, you have Wayne Johnson, you got the list of people, right? Gilbert Morris. And the least, I don't know, I think somebody should put together a think tank with those people to come up with the solution and then present it to the masses, and the masses understanding it because it's now in layman's terms, ask for this. And that would be devastating.
What are your thoughts, Alan?
Well, I think that part of the problem is that government has this automatic tendency to look to interest groups, as the experts, and sort of the population becomes trained into believing, well, the interest group is the expert. All right, the Chamber of Commerce, a good example, the Bar Association. These are groups with interests within the society, legitimate interests, but these are interests within the society. You can't go to the Bar Association alone to ask about something important issues of Bahamian rights and civics and duties and civic obligations and rights. You have to actually go to the people, the population. Don't come back to them and say, well, this is the best thing for you, and expect them to swallow it. It's just like you can't go to the Chamber of Commerce and ask about large issues of economics and taxation, because they represent only
a particular group,
particular interest within that, and an interest which tends to benefit from the status quo. So, not to down any of these groups, but every time a Bahamian government wants to give a legitimacy to its actions, it goes to an interest group, and it acts as if the people don't know any better. The people are the experts on what's good for the people. Once they have the sources of information available to them to make their own decisions, and we're not treated that way. So it's a cultural thing in politics. It's part of the whole. You're in the profession. I'm a lawyer. When we put on these suits, these gowns, these wigs, start speaking like 12th century Englishmen, everything we say must be sacrosanct, right? So, and I think that politicians pass off much of that to the people, a sense that you have to wait until somebody else who's a greater body vets something before you can, because simple issues, Bahamians will say, I'll give you an example, land ownership, right? Bahamians have, if you asked, I'm a land lawyer, so I do a lot of sell land, real estate, and to non-Bahamians. And there's a lot of Bahamians make money off of the international real estate sales, right? But when the debate came about, when the government repealed the Immovable Property Act, right? There was huge stink in the country about, they're selling the country. Now, much of that debate was just reflexive and emotional. But part of the reason people become reflexive and emotional, because government, first they just went to talk to the lawyers, then they talked to the BREA. The government didn't talk to the people about what their actual concerns were. I think if they did, you would find that many people today in the Bahamas, you walk around the street and you ask them, they'll say they don't think foreigners should be able to own property in the Bahamas, full stop. And a large part of the reason why you have these extreme views, or you have a very strong view like that, is because when the debate came up, foreigners were the only people that paid real property tax on out-island properties, which is where most of the development seems to be taking place, most of the purchases taking place, right? When the government came, they repealed the Immovable Property Act. Everybody can see that certain people are making money off of foreigners buying property. Everybody can see lawyers, realtors are making a lot of money off of sales too. And many of these foreigners are coming. Haitians are making money because that's who they're hiring. Domestics, right? Filipinos are making money. But why, when that took place, didn't the government move to balance it so that real property receipts started going up to reflect what was taking place? They haven't. The government met in place a situation where real property taxes were supposed to be paid. They're still miserably low, A, and B, they're still largely delinquent. They're so
Well, property values went up when that happened, and Bahamians were then unable to purchase some of the choice properties because the foreigner could outspend them. And then you put property tax on a guy in Exuma. He didn't pay it, like you just said. Or even if he did pay it, it's a few $100s a year, right? And now he's doing an Airbnb and making $10,000 a night on his $4 million home. So I agree with you. The foreign is better. Or is that just crazy? We should have told him, listen, you're running a business down here in Exuma. Number one, MOT should have a division, right? And Bahamians during this last year should have been taught and shown and financed that $5,000. You could have converted a 4-bedroom home by simply putting a wall in a hallway and fixing up a bathroom to have a $200 a night income. $5,000 would have done the renovations, and you would have been registered with MOT, where we would have had Bahamas B&B, not no Airbnb. Sorry, Bahamas B&B. You want to come do it? It's great. You book it here. The money comes to Bank of the Bahamas. Well, whatever. and that from you book it till you come stay and have your food here, your chicken in a bag and whatever, you're going to be shown what to do. Tourism has to evolve to where we have the ownership, and we could have taken a year. Look, I did it. It isn't just talking. I do, and then I talk. I had $1,000 light bill. It's now $100. Energy security, reliability, affordability, sustainability. If you can't get that, your tax is going to go out of control and your lights is going to be off.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
I see. I can give you examples of talking about this. As Graham alluded to, people do in the come here, and the next thing you know, they're in the Airbnb business, right? I don't want to name names, but I know of at least one very wealthy individual in the Bahamas, in the Azumas, who owns a private island and rents it out, and there's several of them. Rents it out to people as like a hotel. They come and they spend. I'm talking $200,000 a week. High-end luxury. In this case, Oprah Winfrey, for instance, came and stayed in this property. I know of
everybody
many,
knows what you're talking about.
Tax-free. Okay.
Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing. When Oprah comes and stays at this property, I have a client whose business partner, a former governor of Virginia, who's a chairman of a Fortune 500 company. Their entire board came down and stayed on this property, right? The Bahamas government didn't get one penny out of that in terms of hotel taxes they're supposed to. And when they booked it, I know this just because through my client, who by himself is disgusted by it,
Right.
Wrong.
Because they know
couldn't get away in the
they couldn't get away with it in their own countries.
Right.
But what about the private 200-foot, 100-foot yacht that comes here, right? It's $10,000 a day, plus you buy everything else needed, right? The boat comes here. It used to come out of the States. Now it's stationed here. It operates from here. What tax do we get from that? And when you come here, you pay a $300 cruising permit, but you eat $10,000 worth of seafood.
Exactly.
Insult to injury. You probably purge your gray water in what you call the ocean, but it's our country.
Right.
Well, the paper today, I think Mr. Ferrer is saying that cruise ships treat us like is it a toilet? I got to get the copy. I'll show it to you. It's crazy.
Like a latrine.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this case of this person, right? People pay in a Las Vegas company. They don't even pay in the Bahamas. So they pay one guy, or in this case, a group of very rich people, a whole board pays this guy's company in the States. The whole transaction takes place outside the Bahamas.
And not $1. Not $1.
Come here and stay on the island. But here's the thing: look how easily the government could correct that kind of abuse, right? All the government, when you come into the Bahamas, they have you fill out these things where you're staying and all the rest, right? All they have to do was in Exuma, the Exuma office, Bahamas area, the customs, whatever, needs to vet those, look and see where the person is staying.
Right.
And then if somebody is, and that way you can control, because of course he'll say, oh, I only had 2 guests this year, or the rest of these people were my friends or whatever. But there's ways to do that are fairly simple. Just vet, look and see where people are staying. And, they're passing up hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on one property. And, they're competing. People come here to compete with our hotels that do pay tax and compete with us. It happens all the time.
Listen, there's an investment group in Canada. All right, 20 guys get together, 100,000 each. They buy a multi-million-dollar property in Xuma, right? And they have people from other places in the world down there working the property for them. And I don't know how they got work permits, but whatever. And they turn a handsome profit by renting it out. Not even Airbnb. You think that's fair? And no tax on that. But the guy through Milton Street got to pay 12% on his corned beef. Well, not corned beef, but on his grocery peanut butter today.
Those bread basket exemptions don't do anything, because when you have an entire, the entire ecosystem has that everywhere you go, to exempt it on this, that, doesn't really make a difference. You're going to pay it.
It makes a huge difference because it's white bleached gluten bread.
Listen,
it's
don't
corned
get me
beef.
started. Don't get me started.
Michelle knows.
We're killing our people.
10 years from now, it helps the heart doctors. It helps. With
instead of going back, tell people to eat more fish. You know, a jack.
Why didn't you make the seafood and the healthy foods and the produce section all VAT exempt?
Right,
and do
exactly.
Customs entry fee exempt and trailer free fee exempt. See, you don't understand. When you go in that food store and you see the cost of the food, you know why? Our food should be almost the same price as Miami. They have to truck it to Miami, and only so much can fit in a truck. When you put it on a boat can take many trucks, many containers. And so you pay even, I want to give you an exact figure. You pay a charge just for that trailer to leave and come to the food store. Okay? Now, my question is, if you remove all fees, all duties, all taxation, customs entry fee, I want all that gone. So the food in the food store, all of it, could be affordable. Now, if you want to put a 12%, put it on a potato chip and some stuff that we know. But see,
Graham, that's not going to happen because, again, we go back to the special interest groups.
$2 billion in food come a year.
Exactly. So why should they allow, why should the puppet masters allow the puppets to do that? Because it's not going to benefit them.
Correct.
So let's be real now. Now, are we at the point where, or should we be considering some kind of legislation? And I don't know who's going to bring it, because if you're allowing the people to police themselves, clearly they're not going to do the right thing. But does this country need some kind of legislation which governs the relationship between special interest groups and our governments, especially when it comes to campaign finance reform? Because this foolishness will continue.
It will.
Because they aren't going to police themselves.
Can you imagine if I tax your food? You know I hate you. You think about what I just said. And one person taxed you and one put it higher. But if I put tax on your food, you know I hate you. And then I'll move it off of the food that I know is going to kill you. I even hate you more.
Yeah.
But a farmer wants to beg. A farmer wants to beg for some land, beg for some fertilizer, beg for some seeds, while the guy bringing in $2 billion in food, he's giving you $300 million a year free in VAT.
This what I'm about to say. This is another show, right? But you're talking about farmers and begging for land, right? We're now moving full speed ahead, talking about the legalization of medical marijuana. But who they giving the license to farm this marijuana? They have all kind of farmers been struggling for years, trying to feed the nation. You ain't gonna give them an opportunity. Who getting that opportunity? A handful of these same special interest people.
Yeah, that's who will get it.
But everybody will get the chance to use and smoke their little bit of grass.
Right.
It's just like liquor. You can't make liquor, but you can't make it. You can't sell it, but you could use it. You'll be a consumer of alcohol and drugs. And I don't want it if that's the way it's going to go. I think the first people should be the small guy who's been farming for 90 years.
Exactly. Why not give them an opportunity to improve their lives? You see, and then when you call these people out and you make these kind of statements, they say, "Oh, don't we have a right to do business in our own country?" Yeah, you have a right, but you ain't the only one who have a right.
Right. Exactly. Not over everybody else. Yeah. Of course.
Why should you be the only one to have a right?
What you know about farming anyway? You was a lawyer for the last 40 years, 50 years. The farmer in North Luther, right? Fine Threads. And, he's a different, I can't say what party he's with, but it doesn't matter if he's FNMPLP.
It does not matter.
But Fine Threads been farming. He know about farming, right? Growing marijuana be just easy for him. But you've been a lawyer for 90 years. You come in now talking about you as an expert farmer. You got to bring in foreigners to do it anyway because you don't know about farming.
Right.
But you can get the land, you can get the 500 acres, you can get the license, which is going to be $1 to $10 million. So that's how you get rid of all the Bain and Grandstown. They ain't going to $10 million for the license. They can't get the ground land.
From what I'm hearing, that's exactly what is happening. They're making it very difficult.
Once again.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's disgraceful.
It's criminal. No, it's not disgraceful. It's criminal.
But this is something that could be taxed, right? So it is a part of the show. Because and who will be making the money and where will the money go? Will the money come to the Bahamas, or will the money go to a Swiss bank account or Miami to pay for the shipment of marijuana that will end up in Canada? And we didn't get anything but the cheap labor to work the soil, which you'll probably give to somebody from the Caribbean instead of Bahamians. You won't get nothing.
Hondurans or something moving.
Hondurans.
Each new sector that comes here, a new group of people comes in to do the cheap labor.
You'll be sitting on the block, drinking a Guinness and smoking a joint and saying, "Man, how I get squeezed out my own country."
OUP is in the middle. The bottom end consumer. Below you will be people doing the cheap labor, and above you will be everybody else. And that's what this model produces. And I don't see how we don't see it.
Blind.
Special interest legislation we do need, Michelle. That's a very, very good point. I think we need real campaign finance reform. Who's the money coming from?
We do.
You know,
Exactly.
And maybe the parliamentary commissioner could highlight it and look at it from the point of view of, maladministration. If you're being funded by somebody who's a special interest in marijuana farming, who's a foreigner, and the first thing you do when you come into power is you give this person a license, this should be something that is termed maladministration from the point of view of the parliamentary commissioner.
How many politicians ever go on to jail in the Bahamas?
Well, maybe that's about to change. Who knows?
Those fellas in jail don't deserve that.
Oh man,
they bad, but
wow! I want to read a couple more. I want to read a couple more comments. Let's see. This one is from C. Allen. Boy, C. Allen is kind of long. C. Allen says, "There's not a single functioning digital system in the Bahamas. An international organization says that 99.5% of Bahamian businesses and institutions have yet to adopt off-the-shelf advanced technology." Now, the survey conducted of almost 4,000 businesses says 9% don't believe technology plays or will play a role in recovery of the economy. We are not just in a cave, we are deep in it to the point where we are not even seeing shadows, my God, and having fights about the description of darkness. That one marsh plenty cold. How do y'all respond to that? To what Seattle had to say?
The very most important thing I just heard is the majority of the country, 92%, and this is an outside poll, not our local fudge numbers, but sometimes outside does, but not on this one. 92% don't believe that technology is the way of getting out of where we are. You know what I said? You know what I said in 2016 on a Lester Cox show? I said, Lester, we could take Andros, keep it green, do not disrupt it, get the carbon credit for not disrupting those mangroves. Put in elevated solar farms above the water. Let those power 40-foot containers that you ship stuff in full of mining computers. We could have been mining Bitcoin at $3,000 a coin. Today it's heading to $55,000 a coin. We would have made stupid money just sitting down, taking care of our kids. See, I like the easy way. So once again, anyone could call and tell me how no tax for us, pay off the national debt, and how we could pay our citizens to sit home and go to school, get smart.
Let me read a couple more messages. Bertha says, "This is insane." Bertha, you ain't lying, my love. This is beyond insane. It's absolute ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous what we see happening in our country, and so many of our people in a deep sleep coma need 92%, to wake up.
92.
My God.
And these 92% must understand that their child needs a tablet to go back to virtual school. Or they don't think that's needed.
I'll tell you how important technology is, right? Just the other day, 3 young men were picked up by the police. They claim, like every other group of young men that ever gets picked up by the police, that they
Let's talk about it.
Right? They pulled out, one of them was secretly recording the whole incident. That was the first time in a long time, if ever, I remember both the minister and the commissioner getting up and taking as seriously as that an allegation that the police slapped up some young men, because it happens all the time, and it's reported all the time. But this time, somebody had a phone tucked away in their shirt. Technology is important for all kinds of applications. You know, it's something that in this instance helped to expose serious abuse within the police force, and you know, I don't see how anybody could not see how it in a country like this has 1,000 applications for improving the quality of life of the citizenry.
Well, quite frankly, they don't want to see it because it does not benefit them. And when I say they, I'm talking about the leadership, not the people. They don't want. Listen, we've been talking now about police, what you call it, webcams for the police and all this kind of stuff, body cams for the police. Why don't we have cameras in all of the police stations? What? Yeah.
Interviews.
These are simple things.
You can have it in every.
When the interview.
Videotaped interviews. These are simple things.
Very simple.
Right? So, not losing focus of what we're talking about today, I dare say that the reason why we are not seeing some of these things implemented that y'all are recommending today is because it does not benefit the special interest groups who are controlling. These are the puppet masters who are controlling these puppets. And until we find a way to cut those strings, listen, Greg Moss made those statements in 2014. It's 2021, and we still having the same conversation.
You'll have it 10 years from now. But Michelle, see this camera in front of you? That could be on the rearview mirror of every jitney in real time, streaming back to the police headquarters. They could see any incident happening and where that bus is. It's so simple, but we don't want technology because technology. Well, see, Alan said it a long time ago. It's going to replace some of the redundancy, some of the redundant people in the country.
And it's going to shed light on some corruption.
Yes,
it's going to. Yeah, of course. We need camera technology everywhere.
Can you? Let me ask you this one. Can you imagine when this country goes to no more paper money in your wallet or purse, and all you have is on your phone, sand dollar, which is like minutes on your phone. And you'll spend the minutes, like each minute is $1. So sand dollar will be on your phone and you'll send that money to somebody. Watch what this does. Now, I don't know how this is ever going to happen. Watch this now. And this is taxation because sand dollar, this comes right back to missing tax money at customs. How will you take a sand dollar on your phone, right, and give it to somebody if you are someone who bribes? Because if I take my sand dollar on my phone and give $50 to a customs agent on his phone, both of us have a record on our phone, but a copy went to the central bank because they regulate this. There's no more Canadian cash banks. And a copy went to Bahamas Inland Revenue Agency, the VAT department. And so they're going to come back to me and say, why'd you give this customs guy 50? They're going to go to him and say, hey, you got 20 people gave you $50. So it ends corruption. That's the pretense you bring it in under. But how do you run a Bahamas without tipping? So what happens then? People will look for a currency that's not regulated. And that's when Bitcoin goes up to the $100,000 to $600,000. I'm just waiting.
Wow, guys.
It's all different ways of, it's all different kinds of currency that aren't even recognized as currencies now. People use the phone time as currency. They do in the prisons and they do it on the street and throughout the Caribbean. But what I want to mention one thing about low-hanging fruit, Michelle, slightly off topic. I hope not, but
I want you to stick a pin in that thought because it's 12:30 and we have to take a break. So don't forget what the thought is now. Stick a pin in that, and then on the other side of the break, we're gonna go straight to you to get you to express that view. So stay with us, everybody. This is GPS Global Paradigm Shift. We're talking why in the world are we climbing trees and ignoring the low-hanging fruit. This is part 3 of our taxation series. Stay with us.
Stop letting these other guys run you hot while looking for ice. No need to check the food store, the gas station, conveniently located around Nassau. Cooler Ice. So for just $3 US, you can get a bag of ice whenever you want, or refill your 5-gallon bottle for the same $3. The ice machine is closer than you know. Cooler Ice. With locations at Arawak Key, Potter's Key Dock, Montague Boat Ramp, Superwash locations at Prince Charles, Carmichael Road, Soldier Road, Charles Saunders Highway, and 3 new locations: Superwash Nassau Street, Wolf Road, and Gibbs Corner. Cooler Ice Bahamas. Fresh and ready whenever you are.
Want to look your best and feel even better? Visit J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa for the ultimate beauty, body, and anti-aging treatments, offering custom colors, haircuts, vegan anti-freeze treatments, silk blowouts, natural and acrylic nails, unisex pedicures, facials and massages, all waxing services, and microcurrent therapies for anti-aging and body sculpting. J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street, telephone 326-7863. At the Gladstone Road Farmers Market, we provide you with the freshest produce, eggs, meat, and more. But what you don't see makes a difference too, like the care our farmers put into growing and raising that food for your family, the fewer miles that food travels from the farm to your plate, and the dollars you are keeping in our local community. Our open-air market is every Friday and Saturday. Come visit us, and be sure to look for the GPS-endorsed flyer. COVID-19 has affected all of us, but it won't stop us from serving you with a smile, even under the mask. Gladstone Road Farmers Market, home of fresh.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guest and I are talking about why are we climbing trees while ignoring low-hanging fruit. And my guests are Graham Weatherford, that you see there, and it looks like Andrew Allen has walked away from his camera for a minute. So while we wait for him to come back, let's read a couple of the messages that you guys are placing on. He's back. The messages that you guys are placing on Facebook. Let's go to a couple of them. So David says, yo, what pissed me off the other day, I found out the government and the central bank is working with commercial banks against the Bahamian people. I tried to open an offshore brokerage account to trade in the U.S. stock market, only to find out as a Bahamian on Bahamian soil, I need $20,000 to do this because the government doesn't want offshore banks to compete with commercial banks. It's sickening. Maxine says, so why don't the Bahamian lawyers that help close these deals make sure that there are rules in place where Bahamians can benefit? Good question, Maxine. Janet says, where is it? Come on up. It says, we live in a land of crooked lawyers. Oswald says, Michelle, until we as Bahamians become loyal to each other's well-being rather than being loyal to political parties, we will continue to get the short end of the progressive stick. Mario says, this is real upsetting. Child Mario, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. And y'all don't shoot the messenger now. We only bring in the message. So don't get vexed at us.
It's actually worse than we actually can talk about.
My Lord.
You know what's interesting? You've noticed how technology has evolved. If you consider every one of those comments a phone call, you had a lot of phone calls.
Oh, there's much more. I just have, I can't get to them all.
It's pivoted. And can the Bahamas make the digital pivot? Because there's so much more tax revenue, like our guests, like we said, there's so much more tax revenue that could be made if we went into these different digital areas. But no one listens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Alan.
And it brings me, Michelle, to what I was mentioning before. The whole telephony and data thing. Back when before we sold telco, back when we laid the fiber optic cable, seabed cable, we have a connection to Haiti. The government of Haiti actually invited the Bahamas to have the first refusal to develop Haiti's critical infrastructure for because we had a cable laying into them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government of Bahamas had no interest, none, and the then chairman and all had no interest because they saw Haiti as Haiti, right?
And that cable was $90 million, if I remember.
Yes, but they saw Haiti as nothing. Well, in the modern world, all the money is being made off of poor people. Some people don't realize. Bill Gates, Carlos Slim, all these guys are making money not off of rich people, off of selling vast products all over the world to people in poor countries, especially when it comes to telephony. These prepaid phones, telephone companies make about 5-6 times as much more on the prepaid calls than they do on the postpaid. And prepaid, of course, is predominantly poorer people. People are buying these cards and paying up front. So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, Haiti, far from not being interesting, around that time, an Irishman moved in, Dennis O'Brien, to the Caribbean, brought Digicel. And Haiti is where he made all his money. They made $700 million in Haiti. They dominated the Haitian market. And Haitians sell more, they spend more money on the micro level on prepaid calls than most people in the world. So it just sums up the extent to which we don't see opportunities because somebody else has to have done it before, before we have any interest. So we turned our back on a beautiful opportunity. We could have been a hub of all of our neighbors to the south, lesser developed neighbors, beginning with Haiti. We could have fed them, brought the world to them in data.
That goes back to taxing that $70 billion in data that passes through our country for free.
Of course, that would have
just
been,
like the planes flying overhead, but much more money.
That would have been the start in taxing data passing through the Bahamas, and opening.
Think of this: we're gonna spend a bunch of money setting up radar, whatever's needed, $300 million, $400 million. Contract was, I think, signed, so we could start taxing a few dollars on these planes overhead. When we didn't have to do one darn thing to tax the $70 billion passing through a wire on the ocean floor, except it's our real estate. This wire's on my ocean floor. Pay for to tax on the bed, or move it around the Bahamas, and then your data moves slower because it's a longer run.
Missed opportunities.
But they could still do it today. They could
still have that opportunity. I agree.
You're right. It's not a missed opportunity. You're right.
It was easier when it was a company that belonged to the state than you could
Yeah.
have said, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Now it's still there. But of course they won't take
a real estate deal.
Yeah,
but that's a low-hanging fruit. That's one of the low-hanging fruits. I mean,
so we have a caller on the line. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, Michelle, how are you doing?
Hey, Alan. Good. How are you?
Okay, I just want to bring in context the whole data conversation and taxation. I see the problem is I don't want to keep using the word cable on the floor because data is a lot bigger than that and has evolved. In fact, data is the most valuable currency in the world today. In fact, the trillions of dollars statement is 100% data-based, and I think at least 90% of the Fortune 100 companies are data companies. Now, the Bahamas plays an integral role. If you were to just go look for cables, look for internet cables of the world, you will see dozens of connections where probably 90% of the data around the world travels on cable. You'll see the Bahamas has dozens of connections that terminate into the Bahamas. In fact, it has been said that the Bahamas is the most digitally paired country in the world. Grand Bahama, if treated as a country, would be number 2. But now, here's where we are. Data is being taxed in the same way those companies are making trillions of dollars. In a right jurisdiction, they would be willing to pay the tax. This is why they are having fights in UK and other places in regards to paying taxes or trying to shift information, because people are beginning to recognize that data is a taxable environment. Now, where the Bahamas sits right now, we are the only country in the world today that can provide constitutional privacy to data and constitutional sovereignty. You have a right to see your data deleted and share in revenue, combining it with the GDPR in the UK. That would mean that all the data in the world would belong to individuals, so they'll have a right to participate on it. But they must be literally citizenship, whether regular or digital, like how they do in Estonia with the digital citizenship, of a particular jurisdiction. So literally speaking, you would almost make almost all of the residents of the world, those billions of people that's onto the internet, who wants to participate in the revenue aspect of that enormous digital citizenship for a fee. You would also make it a requirement that any information stored on your citizenship, digital or otherwise, be kept within your jurisdiction, which will cause a rapid explosion of technological advancement within the Bahamas. And so, it just requires us to understand that we can't just talk about what happened yesterday. We must actually now build into the future.
Yes.
How people actually meet us there. And so these are this is not like we have to go build infrastructure. Remember Google and all the rest of them, they was looking for location, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Those 13 cities that simply submit their bid grew exponentially because technology companies are saying, wait a minute, you have an infrastructure that Google would have been interested in, that Amazon would have been interested in, and they flocked to those particular areas. We are well advanced almost any other country or jurisdiction or any state. But the problem is that the individuals within our parliament are technologically ignorant of anything that happens. And this is why, not only, first of all, they have an aversion to it because it brings accountability, but secondly, they have no interest in it for the very same reasons of trying to find out. And so, but it's incumbent upon us to become educated and make demands. Because I want you to listen to this statement. I'm not going to give you long, Michelle. I want you to listen to the statement very carefully. It's a statement that I first introduced in the Bahamas after hearing it during the revolution, the Arab Spring, and going back in early 2000s. Listen to it very carefully. The power of the people is and shall always be greater than the people in power. That's not about election. It means it's constant. Every single day, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. The problem is we in the Bahamas have adopted the ideology that as soon as election is over, we have no power.
Wow.
And so if we were to keep ownership of that power, it takes very easily, if you were to take every constituency and do a weekly report, that's 52 reports per year, and go to your member of parliament, make sure that he speaks for you. And when he comes back, you let him know, and you call a press conference to let him know that he did not say what he say you said, but that makes him a liar. And so when he begins to believe that you and know that you're keeping account on him, and you would say, here's the things we want you to hear when you get up next week and speak in the parliament, this is what we want to hear. If you get 20 of them to follow that rule and hold them accountable, you would have taken back your power.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling, Cial. And I have a comment from someone on Facebook that is sort of saying exactly what you're saying in a roundabout kind of way, in another kind of way. This person, Melvern, says, good day. We are blaming the wrong set of people. We are the ones who continue to complain and accept what they do. We only had 2 sets in the House, PLP and FNM, and they are all in this together. Even blind Blake can see that. Education is the key, and you continue to educate. Let us vote these parties out, man. Their time is up. Is this just a matter, gentlemen, of, as Melbourne would have suggested, voting a party out, or does this go deeper than that? Is there more work to be done than just going and marking an X in a poll? And it on the box.
I think it goes deeper because, as you've seen, it's not just the parties themselves; it's the individuals that make up the parties and the individuals who present themselves in the front line of politics in the Bahamas, who often don't have the plot, and there's some cultural reason for that. That politics is attractive, seemingly, to people who are happy with the status quo, and that's not what they're there for. They're not there to because they have a realistic hope of advancing the country or an idea of even what that is. So I think it goes deeper than getting rid of a party or two, then you have another one. We have to, on a daily basis, like Alan says, on a daily basis, be prepared to let those who govern us know what it is we want, and that we understand what we want, and that kind of guides them, whoever it is. I do think that insofar as the parties have an entrenched problem, it's the problems that could be addressed by what you indicated, which are things like campaign finance reform, things that come back to the things that adhere them to special interests. If that can be broken, then it's up to us to educate ourselves and to demand of our leaders, whoever they are, that we know what we want and they better deliver it.
All right, let's go back to a couple of our comments on Facebook. This one, trying to get it to switch to another view. Okay, this one is from Adrian again. Adrian says, the Bahamas government loves the Stone Age. Better for corruption. Melbourne says, good day. All is not lost. It's late, but we can make the change. Thank God for shows like this, Michelle. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bertha says, we allow them to take charge over us. Well, the bottom line, again, is that, Melbourne says it best. And let me just put her comment up. We have to change the whole system. That's what it boils down to. We have a systematic and a systemic problem that needs to be revamped, changed. And until we do that, we will, I dare say, continue to see the same thing happening again and again and again and again, because it is not beneficial to those who are privileged to give up their privilege. Bottom line.
The only person who can really change it is the person who's in power, and he's sworn to a foreign queen. How does that work? And you will tell me that I have to get in there and so I could change it. But once I get you there, you swear to Her Majesty.
Listen, when I hear statements, I really think that our leaders should hire what's the terminology for people for those who used to watch Scandal? What was it? Olivia Pope's role. Y'all need to hire people who teach you all what to say and what not to say, and damage. Because when I hear our leader get up and say, "Next time for the poor people,"
what was it last time?
I say that and more women. But look at how many women. I say, y'all need an Olivia Pope.
So what have you been doing all this time?
Exactly. And even if that is the case, why you let that come out your mouth?
It's
a lot of things came out. Going around the world saying we're the most corrupt place in the world.
And come invest.
We're the most corrupt place. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to
come invest. Same.
Yeah. We've had economists, accountants, and financial experts. 3 people we should never, ever, ever see in government. Economists, accountants, and financial expert. If you're one of those, go home, don't apply for the job, because you have me almost $10 billion in debt. I want to see someone who's going to tell me how there's no tax on a local, and you're going to remove the national debt within 6 months to 1 year. And if you tell me I'm stupid, you're the wrong person for the job, and you're fired, because there's $3 trillion moving through the Bahamas with no tax. Now, I don't know if they're tipping. Maybe. And that's why you might keep your mouth shut. While I pay 12% on food.
My God.
If you want to pay 12% on food, and my mommy pays 12% on her pension, they will say we don't tax pension, right? Yes, she buys food.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say breadbasket items nothing is exempt. This environment is one where everywhere you turn, you're paying it, right? So I agree with you, Graham. The idea that we can substantially remove taxes from the locals in a country this size with this expanse of, look, I mean, you talk about Grand Bahama, right? Grand Bahama's position. Go to Anagua and look off the coast of Matthewtown and look at the ships passing by. It is like something you've never seen before. The biggest Panamax vessels going from Africa from Asia, Europe, straight to the Panama Canal. I'm talking the Windward Passage now. Bahamians don't seem to realize that is, and that's down in Inagua. We have at least 3 points in the Bahamas where international shipping has to go.
That's
and
another
that's one of
show.
them.
That's another show. Trust me. That. Yeah, that's what helped me to get kicked off from the other place. That show.
And it's so crazy. I mean, these are things. I got a question for you. How can Ford Motor Company, the Ford Explorer, Ford Motor Company, he's got a couple 100,000 people. How can he just have one CEO? And we got a couple 100,000 people, and we got about 40 people. And they got us bankrupt. And this one CEO got Ford making billions of dollars.
But it all comes back right back to the point that Malvern Smith made. We need to change the whole system. How do we do that?
It's not our system. It's the Queen of England's system that she gave to us.
So do we change the system by changing that structure?
To a republic.
I think we should have changed that. Even Barbados beat us to it. Anybody who knows anything about Barbados, they call Barbados Little England. Barbados is the most. They love the Queen more than the Queen loved herself, and they're even leaving.
Well,
Visionary
Harry,
leadership.
We should follow Harry's lead. I called it Baja exit, not Brexit.
Does it boil down to visionary leadership or just courageous leadership?
No, to corruption. And the prime minister told us it's corrupt. It boils down to corruption. There's no way $3 trillion moves through your country.
So you don't think there's a lack of vision, and you don't think there's a lack of courage? You think this is just what you're saying is you think that this is just corruption?
Has to be, because you don't move a whole cruise ship through my country and nobody made nothing. And you see today in the paper another bunch of cruise ships proud to be having the Bahamas as their registry, their registry. And we don't get anything for that registry. And then in the next paper, I see that the cruise ships treat us like an outhouse. They dump all their garbage here. So how are you proud on one foot about you're bringing a cruise ship here, and he's making billions, and you pay no tax, and then on the other newspaper, you're talking about he's dumping all his garbage in your water.
And you're nice by saying garbage, but you can't say what they're really dumping on.
Well, if it was sewage, I'd be happy. But what it is it's gray water. That's Mr. Clean, Snow Bowl, Tidy Bowl, all the cleaning chemicals. Plus, allegedly, they take plastics and they put them in a macerator and grind them up. Fine. So when you dump that, it goes over the reef, smothers it, kills it, and it gets in the fish and sea life's gills.
And then we eat
kills
the
them.
fish. And then we eat the fish.
Yes. Because sewage, that actually could be absorbed and no problem. But it's the cleaning
chemicals, yeah.
It's the
but
other.
Also, Graham, that home porting thing, you got to read the fine print. It's not what it seems. They're only talking about cruises going to the other Bahamian islands. They're not talking about Nassau, a home port for international cruises. At least
well, you see, now what you just hit is a very dangerous thing, because what if I have my 9 private islands, right? Mm-hmm. And my people come off the boat, whether they're from Asia or England, and they sell the souvenirs and everything on the island. Bahamians may get a job to run a jet ski and rake up the seaweed off the beach. But everything is on that private island. I don't need to come to Nassau any longer. And you know the deal on Paradise Island, right? You remember the big thing with Toby Smith by the lighthouse? Mm-hmm. So what if I bring my boat in the harbor of Nassau and you go to my private island, which is tender, or you walk over to that beach, right? Basically, because the boat's almost there. And you never have to go downtown to the Tiki Hut or to any store because it's not safe. Visit our private island in Nassau.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm asking you this. I don't know this for sure, but I'm asking you, is that where it ends up? And you see the Jones Act that means all these boats must come to the Bahamas before they go back to the U.S.? That was a beautiful act. And we don't capitalize on it. We got beachfront property, and we selling hot dogs for 25 cents each because we believe the view is nothing and the hot dog's valueless. I don't know if that kind of sums it up.
Well, I think, to begin with, this port, I seriously doubt you will see the kind of movement. They're talking about what you have in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And that's home porting. That's where guys are flying. People are flying from all over the United States, sprouting up all these hotels for them to stay in, to get on ships and go throughout the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, everywhere. What these guys seem to be talking about is making essentially Nassau the capital of the Bahamas, which is exactly what it always was, right? So it's essentially saying you come to Nassau for a Bahamian cruise. So that has to be looked at. seen that in the.
Who needs a kickstart more than Freeport? You build not a Taj Mahal, but you build a great airport, but not expensive, one level, doesn't need full of glass, but it's modern inside. And you use Freeport Airport as the hub because you have extra land there. And you use that port as where you have tourists come from all over America because it's a cheaper, quicker flight to Freeport. And you get on the cruise, which is 3, 5, 10, 7, 21 day Bahamian Island cruise, just how they drift that boat at 10 mile an hour to Half Moon Key. And then you go to Princess Key, and then you go up to Abaco to Castaway, and then you go to the 2 ports in the Berries, and then you go down to Bimini now, where we gave away the key there. And you do the Bahamian Island cruise. And you can go down to Long Island to the southern tip and bus people up to the Blue Hole. So now we could have unique food spin-offs, right? Just how you book that in Florida, you could book it here. And we've been saying that for 20 years. I'm tired of saying that. But you know what? It all changes when you start looking like Haiti and Venezuela.
Wow. I want to end with this comment, and then you guys give us your final thoughts. Wow. So Regina says, for some reason it's not coming up. Let's try it again. Regina says on Facebook, Michelle, thanks. If Bahamian eyes don't open, then I don't know. God help us. Well, thank you, Regina, for that comment. And I believe in the power of God, and I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe that faith without works is dead. And as we often hear, he needs to use human hands to get his work done on earth. So the question is, and I'm going to let this be your final thoughts, gentlemen. What can human hands do? What do we need to be doing? I guess, Alan, I see Graham putting his hand up for you to start, so I'll let you go first.
Well, I think that first thing we need to do is start valuing ourselves, and we should get insulted when politicians come to us with these little trinkets, especially around election time, that they've negotiated some or other heads of agreement. We don't know the details. What we do know is it's going to follow all the rest in the one single respect, that Bahamians are going to be at the bottom end of jobs, and they will have given vast concessions to people to come here and do things that the people will come here and do anyway because they're going to make a lot of money out of it. So that we should be insulted by, knowing what we know about what our country has to offer, these low-hanging fruits that we talk about, knowing that the country could have been making a lot of money in the telecoms industry because of the infrastructure that was laid down and because of our geographic location. It could have been making a lot of money, more money in the real estate industry if we were collecting real property tax like we should be. And every new opportunity that has presented itself in the last 20 years, we've either misused or just completely turned away from. So once you know that, when your politician comes and starts telling you about, I'm going to announce something big, I can't tell you what it is yet, but you're going to hear some big...
Until 6 months before the election, then I'll tell you. Yeah, you know what to do with them, right? Okay, Graham, we got 1 minute.
The WTO, that right there, and KCX has studied that in depth more than any of us. Those rules, when they apply here, you're going to see devastation. But I just want to ask the question, when are we going to believe in Bahamians and put Bahamians first? Secondly, how do we get no tax for us? No national debt. How do we erase that in 6 months? And is the $3 trillion that the Brent Simonet said in November 5th, 2018, National Guardian, is that 3 with 12 zeros? Is that 3 trillion real? Because if that's a real figure and you're not taxing that while you're taxing our food, you're the wrong person. And I don't want to see the guy who just left because he was doing the same thing.
All right, guys, time is gone. It's 1 o'clock. Gentlemen, this has been, once again, a riveting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on GPS today. Man, I guess, wow. We'll see if there'll be a part 4. But this has been really good. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Allen and Graham Weatherford, for your contribution. And thanks to everyone who listened in, whether it be by radio, tune in, on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you to our sponsors for making today's show possible. I'm Michelle Malcolm. That's going to do it for us. And I will see you guys tomorrow, TGIF. It's going to be talking about the week that was. Have a good afternoon, everyone.